This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
I'm happy to be joining you, Angela. You sound so professional and wonderful and all those good things. Did you make any of that stuff up?
I didn't make it up. I could not make it up. Could not.
And it doesn't sound rehearsed either, so great job.
It's not. Seriously, I mean, you're one of the most genuine supporters of women's basketball, women's sports in our area, and I love that you've never changed over the years. Like, you've always been consistent and always have been, so thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's who I am, I guess.
Definitely. So. Well, I'm really eager to collaborate to help young women who are in college learn about various industries, especially from women who played sports. And so will you talk a little bit about what you're doing now in the industry you're in?
Right now, it's kind of twofold. Because if you ask any of my friends, they call me Hey Mon, because they say I do a little bit of everything. And I don't know if that's with aging. I don't want to get old. I'm in denial about that, or I'm not really sure, or if I'm just curious about a lot of things at this age. But playing for a very, very long time. It's been 20 plus years. And right now, I'm still in the claim industry, but I'm taking a little turn regarding. I've stepped away from claims a little bit. So now I'm on a systems integration project with the company that I currently work for. We have a company here in Missouri, and we have one also in California, and we're on two different computer systems. So also we go up to part of this integration process so that we can all be on the same systems in the event of catastrophic. We have tornadoes back here, storms, hail, and everything, and then they have earthquakes out there. So, and then dealing with Texas also, so that we'll all be on the same system to help each other out. So I'm a part of that implementation and the upgrade of that. So I've actually stepped out of my conference to taste a little, some new cheese.
How did you get involved in claims after playing? What did you do when you finished playing ball, and how did you get connected in this industry?
It took a while. It took a few minutes because I did some other stuff before I started into the I call my real world. First graduated from school, believe it or not, I worked at National Supermarket in U City, and I was a cashier, and I loved that job. It's just that after the I'm not gonna say the stresses, but the constraints that we are under as student athletes. Once you graduate. It's kind of like you don't want to do anything. You don't want to have any obligations to do anything. You just kind of want to live for a little bit. Being a student athlete, it was great, but we have we're different than normal people. We can't go to all the happy hours. We can't go to the parties. We can't, consume once we get of legal age. Well, they do, but the type of athlete that I was, with the goals that I had, one before I left Carbondale, then I chose not to partake in a lot of those things. So when I graduated, then it was like, oh, I'm free. I graduated in 5 years. I didn't know what to do with my free time in that fifth year, because at 3 o'clock I knew that I was supposed to be somewhere, but I didn't have that somewhere to be. So during that time, I worked probably about 3 jobs at one time because I didn't want to work one full-time job. So I was a cashier. You probably know Casey Sports.
Yes.
I was a manager there. And then I ran my own investigating company called Jackson's and Jackson's Investigation. And what we were employed, my father and I, we were employed by the Pattonville School District, and we used to investigate truancy, which that's kids that are not going to school that should be going to school, and then also residents that were going to Pattonville School District that did not live in the districts. So yeah, so I had some early morning surveillances and submitting case reports on my findings and things like that, and then after that, I was like, I think it's time for me to get a real job.
Okay.
But how I got into the industry, a alumni of mine named Tony Smith at State Farm, and she had talked to me, and she would come down on games, and she'd be like, they call me Petey. Petey, when you come home after you graduate, I want to talk to you about, insurance. And I was like, why insurance? Well, it made a lot of sense because everybody needs insurance, whether it's auto insurance, life insurance, home insurance, and it was something that that the industry needed. So it was always job security involved in that. And I thought, yeah, I always want a job, so that makes sense, And so she asked me whenever I came home or whenever I was ready to work to give her a call. So finally, after I worked all my little jobs, I said, let me call my alumni. And we met and we had lunch, and she just broke it down to me from all the different aspects of insurance, and it's just so much, with sales, with marketing, with claims, with actuary, just a bunch, underwriting, and I was like, whoa, it's a lot, I can just go from one department to, and she had wanted me to go take the test at State Farm, and I was like, wait. I said, you done told me a little bit about it. I said, let me see if this is something I want to do, because I didn't want to disappoint her. I didn't want to go there, and, it's my mom who's giving me this opportunity, and it don't pan out. I didn't want to, bring anything bad onto her or myself or anything like that. So what I did secretly was I started applying to other companies based on the information that she had prepped me for her company.
Okay.
And I wanted to see if I was going to do this on myself. Because, alumni are always, they got us. They're behind us. They're supportive of what we want to do. With a different company. So I was excited because it was, it was like big girl status.
Yeah.
I had, talked to my alumni, went out, nailed my, got my resume together, nailed my interview, said all the right things, and they offered me a job. So then I had to break the news to her. But she was happy for me, whether if I was with State Farm or not. And she was like, okay, you go on over there and get your experience. And then you come back over here and do sales for me. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I want to do sales. I want to eat. So, a regular place, bring in checks. Sales, you on that commission, And that's probably one of the things that I regret. I probably should have, but I just didn't want to do sales. Would I have been good at it? Yeah. Would I be close to retiring about now? Yeah. But, it's good. So that's how I got started with that.
So you mentioned that the insurance industry is one where there are a lot of different areas. Have you jumped around to different areas? And can you elaborate a little bit can you describe what the different areas are for some young women who may not have known how lucrative the insurance industry is, and it may be an eye-opener for them?
Well, sales is, that's what you're doing. You are offering people life insurance, car insurance, home insurance, and is all that a necessity? Absolutely. Because if you die, your, kids that you have, you want to leave something as form of a life insurance policy. If your car is in an accident, you want it repaired, so you have to have auto insurance. Same thing with your home. If your home is in a fire or with all these tornadoes and hails that we have, you want any damage that's done to your home, you want that repaired. So that's the sales part of it. The claims part of it, which is an industry that I've been in the entire time, is I'm the person that once you have an incident, accident, or a situation, then you call to get your claim set up, and we investigate and handle, handle the claims and get you taken care of, put you back to hold. Clayton is trying to peek and see. We put you back to hold to where you were before you had this accident. Underwriting is another area that's it's when the underwriters are the ones that determine how much your policy is going to cost you, or how much you're going to pay for your insurance. They take all these different variables into effect: where you live, the demographics, the area, how old you are, how many accidents you've had, how many insurance homeowner claims you have. And actuary is another part of the underwriting. It's almost pretty much the same, but just a different. They're dealing with financials.
Okay.
So it goes on and on and on.
But I think it's really important that young women hear that, and that that they can learn about different industries. I didn't learn about the insurance industry in depth for years, but it's something that everyone needs to have. So when they're thinking about what career paths to take, a good starting point is what's something that people will always need, and then narrow down from there.
Now, don't get me wrong, everybody had their layoffs, but it is a necessity. You do need one of those things. So that's kind of, in my mind when I was kind of job hunting, that, the big job security. So
that's smart. That's really smart. What did you major in when you were in college, and how has your educational background helped prep you for what you've been doing over the years?
I got my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with an emphasis in marketing. How did it help? Because you can get a degree and teach. Mm-hmm. So it's there's no one degree that says you must take on that particular job type or job role. That's what a lot of people really don't get. I mean, some people major in psychology and they manage other businesses that don't have anything to do with that. I think the majority of the time, those type of special degrees, or when you're going to med school, or you have people that go to law school, they end up not practicing law, but they've spent all their money, or they don't pass bar, but they end up getting a job somewhere, and it can be totally different than their field. How did I choose that? Back in the day, we didn't have all the academic advisors that a lot of young athletes, all the athletes now, have. We just would go over and sign up for classes that we wanted, and it's. I wish I was now than back then. I knew I didn't want to be a PE teacher. A lot of my friends are, and a lot of my friends are educators, and sometimes now I wish I was, so I could have the summers off. Okay. But I think I was just always business minded. I worked at a little confectionery store at a candy counter when I was a kid. That was right down the street from me, and I've always figured out ways to hustle money. So it was kind of easy for me. Some of the courses that I took was very challenging to me, but I made it. So I mean, I guess just me and my personality kind of made me choose that type of field.
What would you say are some skills that you have to have as they relate to your personality to be marketable and to stay in the field for this long?
You have to be a great communicator. What comes along with being a great communicator? You have to listen, because if you're not listening, you can't communicate, because you don't know what the other person or the people or your audience or whoever it is that you're speaking to is saying. I mean, for me, I take passion in everything that I do. With my job, being a friend, I'm very team oriented. It's not about me on my job. I like to make my money. I love my bonuses. I love my raises. But to me, I get more gratification when I know that I'm able to help other people succeed and get to where they need to be. I'm always training. I'm always picked to help, new people that come in, get them started, or I'm always a point person that they can go to and talk to. You have to have, integrity about what you're doing, and you got to enjoy. You got to have passion. That's with everything. With what you want to do. The way that I played ball, I was passionate about playing ball. I'm passionate about my job. I'm passionate about, learning something new. I mean, when I moved from here to California, that was like from one extreme to the next.
Yeah.
But it was a way that I knew that I would be taking the steps to get towards management. I knew if I stayed here in Missouri working for the company that I work for now, it would be stagnant, just because of how they are internally. So I had to do what I needed to do to, set myself, a little higher than everybody else, so that, me going to California to come back here definitely is going to put me in a better position for management. And I'm passionate about being a mom. So, I mean, it encompasses everything.
One of the questions that a lot of young women ask is, how do you de-stress? So you're a mom, you're a great friend, you work really hard, you're on this management path. How do you balance everything and de-stress?
Well, when I leave work, because that's wearing several hats. When I leave work, I leave work. I don't take it with me. It's nothing that I can do about it at home. Once I walk out the door, it's Petra's time, it's Clayton's time. And nothing at work can come between that. I've done a lot in my time, and right now it's my son's time. It's my job to get him prepared for what I went through as a student athlete, because he will be, whether that's coaching his team. I find fulfillment in teaching, because now a lot of AAU coaches, they really don't teach. They get their kids out there and they can't run plays. They just yell at them. And, I'm a little too old to yell. I raise my voice just a little bit. But I think a lot of kids, a lot of boys at his age, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, are lacking the fundamentals. And that's what we as women possess. And that separates our game. You're talking about the WNBA from the NBA. That it separates the two. And they get an opportunity to get that because I instill it in them. the repetitions. That's what they do. That's what they do. And in the long run, they see, that's why we were doing that. But I get distressed seeing him grow. I have my me time when I go and get my hair done, and I relax and get my feet done, and sometimes just being when he's out playing, just being in the house with quietness.
Mm-hmm.
The TV's not on, the phone's not ringing, I'm not texting, and just kind of maybe that's almost my form of meditation. I've never really formally meditated, but I guess if I'm sitting in a room of silence, delivering thoughts, then that would be my form of meditation, I guess. So, and that's what I do. And now that I'm in California, it's different than Missouri. I like going to the beach. I go to the beach early mornings and, get my walk on. And sometimes I just sit there and listen to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you have it.
That's important, though, that we have that time to relax and sit in silence, especially since our culture is very much fixated on go, go, go. You sleep when you're dead, and sleep is for suckers. Like, there's all these different mantras around who you should be and how resting is some sign of weakness,
No, as much as I do, and you're on Facebook, and that my son's an actor too, then I very seldom get that time anymore to myself, because like I said, right now it's all about him. The things that I do for him, driving up the 405, all the highways, taking him back and forth to auditions, when he has to work, when he's filming feature films, then yeah, it gets tiring. But I don't. A lot of people ask me, "Aren't you tired? Don't you get tired?" I say, when you have to do things, my mind don't tell me that I'm tired until at 1:00 in the morning when I lay down to go to bed at night, and that's when I get my rest, and I'm okay with that. I'm enjoying my life and his, so it's good. But I do have my moments when I do absolutely nothing, and when he don't have a tournament, it's free time. He and I go to the movies. He's a movie buff, so he makes me a movie buff. So.
No, that's important, though, and I think and you're absolutely right. There are different seasons of our lives where, at this point in time, we may not be able to slow down as much, but we're always consciously aware that that's what we need.
Yeah, exactly.
Early on, when you mentioned about getting into the insurance industry, that there was an alumni who sounds like that person became a mentor and was a mentor for you and helped you along the way. What's some of the best advice you've received from your mentors in regard to career?
Tony was probably, one of the first persons to, reach out to me, because I've had some older, teammates that have been very successful in their, careers that I have, stayed in touch with. And, we've always talked about, our different careers and what we wanted to do. And another one was one of my former teammates. Her name is Susan Wright. She was a big-time person at a company called Oracle, and it's a computer-based company. And she recently started her own computer company in Nashville. But, she kind of told me about that industry. And I knew that was something I didn't want to do because, man, I struggled with Fortran. And I was like, no. But, I've had good friends in my life that have given me opportunities that other people probably would have not, even though I was qualified. Have, told me, like Tony, when she told me about the industry, about the insurance industry, then it was almost something that instantly that I knew that I wanted to do. And even when I had left the industry to coach for that period of time that I coached, and then went back to the industry, I picked up the phone and called her again, you know. And at that point, I thought about sales, and I was like, no, I need a check. and then plus, I knew my worth. I knew my value as to, could nobody underpay me? Because when I first started out in claims, believe it, in 1990, even with a degree, I started out like at $18,000, and that was back in the 90s, and it's way more than that now. So, but now, like I said, pardon me?
I was asking, what does claims start out at now? So there's a young woman who's thinking about claims insurance.
Well, there's different levels. Okay. You can start out as a claim representative 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you go into management. But no experience, probably with a college degree, they'll probably start you maybe at different companies vary. I would say maybe about 30, maybe, which may be low. I'm not really sure, but once if you have experience, and depending on how many years or what the specialty is, you can do, you can probably come in at, maybe 40 or something like that. When I left SLU and started back in the insurance industry, then they couldn't pay me anything less than 60. I tell you that. So it ranges, and that was 15. I was probably 15 and then, because the company I work for, I've been with them 8 years. So yeah, I was probably about 15, 16 years in at that point. So it's been a while.
Well, what's interesting is that I didn't mention this as much in your bio about coaching. So you switched careers. You left insurance, went to coaching, then went back to insurance. Why did you leave insurance and go to coaching, and then why did you transition back?
Because I was coaching all alone, but I was head coaches at junior colleges, and I was like the program fixer. I'd go in, fix a bad program. Yeah, so I knew I had the capabilities, and I actually applied for some, Division II jobs, some lower mid majors, some Division I's that is not even considered a mid major. That's below mid major. And never got that opportunity to coach. Didn't get an interview. And actually, I applied for your alma mater, and I didn't get a look. I applied for my alma mater, and I didn't even get an interview, and that was okay, But Shimmy Gray Miller, who came to SLU from Arizona. I met Shimmy when I was living in Seattle, and she was at the University of Washington, and I had formed a traveling team. Remember I told you I was a hustler. Yeah. But I had, and we would play University of Washington. And then we would play in Nate McMillan terms, other tournaments, and Shimmy would play with us actually. And so we had built a rapport because I had one kid that I knew that when she had left and went to Arizona that she was interested in, and we became friends. And so when she told me she was going to get put in the hat for a SLU, she asked me, would you want to go back and help me with this program? Oh, no, man. I was happy out there in Washington. I was making money. It was different, different scenery, different type of life, seeing the mountains every day. But I thought, man, I've always wanted to coach on it, and here's my opportunity. Do I go with my passion? and take that opportunity, or do I stay out here and continue living my life? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go with my passion, because there's only one other thing that I wanted to do that I didn't do. And I said, I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me up. And I was coming home. My family was here. I had a home here. I was pregnant with my son at the time. And I said, you know what? He also get to be with his family, instead of me being across the country and things like that. So God us to places He wants us to be, and He wants us to be there. And Shimmy gave me that opportunity to coach on that level. And I did it, and I came on home. And I was a Billiken for a minute.
Right.
So, that's how that happened. How I made the transition back. We were going through some changes. We walked into a program that was not very strong. The athletic director that had hired Shimmy wasn't at SLU anymore. And when things happen, things changes. And at that point, it didn't seem very bright for our side of the program, regardless how relentless, how much heart and soul that Shimmy put into that program. Things happen. And, it was like, at that point, it was time for me to go, and, until their journey ended, I was still a part of that journey, and I felt every bit of what they went through even after I had left, and Shimmy. And, she gave that program everything that she had. And, like I said, but when different people coming in, and it's not the people that hired you, then you know how that whole you've been in that game before, and it's a whole genre, a whole new different avenue. And so at that time, I was like, you know what, I know what I need to do, and I know what's going to feed me, and I don't want to pay. I want to, I'm ready to be a mom. I'm ready to be a soccer mom. And that's when I went back to claims. I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And so, like I said, we finished for me, and I went back to it.
I think it's important, though, that young women know things, we can have a plan and we can go after our goals, but at some point things change. And we're going to make changes along the way. Some of them we can foresee and plan for, and others of them we don't see coming. And we have to change anyway.
You have to be ready for the change at all times. And it's just a part of and I think that's what athletics, being a part of athletics kind of prepare you. It gives you, just, the grind of that allows you to conquer adversity. It prepares you. Being a student athlete, like I said, we're different. We're not normal people that go to college. We are different. And it's not what people think. People think that, athletes have all the fame and glory, but they don't understand that, along with being on the road for 3 days in a row, now you come back and you come back and you miss 3 days of class and or an exam, and you can't make that up, which is back when I was in school. It was hard for us to make up exams. They didn't care. They didn't give a rat's about it. So like I said, it prepares you. Being a student athlete prepares you. You get through me being your coach, and if you get through your coaches as you go along and you get older, then you will be prepared for life.
Definitely. What is, as we wrap up, I ask everyone this. What is your advice to your 21, 22-year-old self? If you could go back and tell her anything, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that you should have received when you had that opportunity. You should have went to law school.
Law school?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that was the plan. And remember, just not too long ago, I said there was something that not doing. And when I got that opportunity to when I got the opportunity to coach at a division school, I wasn't going to pass that opportunity up because I passed up one already. And that was, I should have had law school, and I didn't, But, after I get through paying tuition into, for 6 more years, I just made so. But yeah, just don't, I live with no regrets, but I just wish that's one thing that I wish I would have pursued and I didn't. But there's still an opportunity for me to do.
There is.
So never say never.
Law school isn't going anywhere. They're still gonna be there.
There you go. And as much money as I pay for tuition, I can pay for law school.
Right. Now, Petra, thank you so much for being a part of this book. Thank you for being on the podcast. I learned a lot of new things that I didn't know about you today. So I really appreciate your support, everything over the years.
Hey, anytime. I'm always there for you. I'm always there for women's basketball, all my friends. Consider me their role models, their mentors. Then that's what we do.
This is Athletes as Educators.
Thank you for listening to the Athletes as Educators podcast. Connect with me through the Athletes as Educators Facebook page or at Athletes Educate on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. For more resources and information about today's podcast, you can check us out at AngelaRLewis.com.